Hindi, so that you can all understand. I feel deeply privileged to have been invited to deliver the convocation address this morning to young graduates who would soon be entering the world after completing their education. The old feel young and the young feel younger still. I have always believed, and this has been my firm conviction, that every person who has occupied a high position in life should take every opportunity of meeting the youth of this country. Because the entire future of the country lies in the hands of you young men and women. We who belong to my generation have failed the people of India. We have messed up things. It is you, for you young people, young men and women, going out to universities to change the things, to make a new world, a new India. And that is why whenever an opportunity comes to me to address young men and women, I never miss that opportunity. I am particularly happy that I am addressing you under the auspices of a great university. I have always believed that education must have the highest place in natural life, because the entire future of our country, its growth and development, social, economic and political, depends on the nature and quality of education imparted to youth. There was a time during the freedom movement when our political leaders used to go to the educational institutions and motivate and inspire the students. But unfortunately today, our students are neglected. Often they are used merely as pawns in the political game. It is therefore essential that those who have dedicated their lives to the service of the people and who have actualized the values of tyaga and seva in their life must be invited to the educational institutions, and the students must be exposed to their influence rather than be led away by partisan politics. I am proud to be here this morning because your university is situated in a famous place. The city of Kolhapur has always been a place of importance from times immemorial. It was known in the ancient days as Karveer. It is famous for its Mahalakshmi temple, and because of its religious significance, it has often been described as the Kashi of the south, and it has attracted yogis from far off places. It has also had in the past progressive and enlightened rulers who paid the greatest attention to advancement of education and set a number of educational institutions to the socially and economically backward classes of people. Your university is also named after the great son of India, a national hero who fought for the country's independence. Your university is comparatively a new university, situated in existence now for only a little over 20 years. But even so, it has established high prestige and reputation for itself as a center of learning and scholarship. It caters to the needs of 5 districts of Western Maharashtra, and I believe there are about over 60,000 students receiving the benefit of education in the colleges affiliated to your university. I am indeed thankful to the Vice Chancellor and the members of the Executive Council for inviting me to deliver the convocation address this morning. I am particularly happy to be here today because General Thora has been awarded honorary degree of Dilate. We have honored a great soldier, and he was very right when he said it is not soldiers who make war, it is the power-hungry politicians who indulged in this pastime which is now destroying the world. We must realize, and I am very glad he pointed out to you, that the fortresses of peace and of war are built in the minds of men. It is you young people who have to educate the people of this country so that they may be able to live in peace. And one great danger which he rightly pointed out was our internal conditions, which might invite any foreign power to once again indulge in its aggressive activities. We are unfortunately today assailed by divisive forces, forces of disruption, forces of disintegration. We have to fight those forces. We must realize that we are Indians in last. Let us remember what Jawaharlal Nehru said. If India lives, who dies? And if India dies, who lives? We must get rid of this notion, this divisive forces of regionalism, linguism, communalism, and all sorts of parochial loyalties. India became one nation because of its cultural unity. Unlike many other foreign countries which have become nations by reason of political exigencies, India is the one country which has become a nation because of its vast cultural unity, a cultural ethos covering the entire nation from north to south and from east to west. It is this cultural unity which has made India into a nation. And during the freedom struggle under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, India became once again a sort of a political unit. A political unity was needed. But when we became independent, we took this political unity, the unity of the nation, for granted. We never made an effort to see that this unity and integrity was preserved, nurtured, nourished. And today we see before us, our very eyes, the forces of disintegration trying to break up the nation. It is for you young men and women to see that India's unity and integrity is not threatened. India remains one and united, ready to face any peril from outside. Because it is only if we conquer the dangers from within that we shall be able to face the dangers from without. And that is why we must now shun, eschew, get rid of all these narrow parochial loyalties of regionalism, linguism, communalism, all sorts of reasons which are now obsessing our minds. Let us be gripped by one higher ideal. When we were fighting the struggle for freedom in 1942 and earlier, we were all united. Why? Because we had an ideal, the ideal of the freedom of the country, which obsessed our minds, which gripped our hearts, for which we were prepared to lay down our very lives. What has happened to all that now? Why should we go on fighting against each other when we see there are imperialist forces outside that threaten the nation? Let us all come together, join ourselves together, be inspired by a great ideal, namely the ideal of preserving the freedom of this country, its unity and integrity. That is the call of Mother India. And that is the call to which we have got to listen, to which we have got to respond. And that is the one thing which is now, should be uppermost in the minds of our young men and women. I am particularly addressing you because those who belong to my generation, they are overpowered by greed, by lust for power, self-aggrandizement, all forms of nepotism, corruption, all forms of moral degradation. They will never be able to save the country. It is only you young men and women who can save this country. And therefore I am appealing to you more than to anyone else. Let us recall those wonderful days of the freedom struggle. I was myself a student like you in 1942. I had nothing to do with politics. I was a student. I was doing my MA in the Physics College in Bombay. Then an event happened which changed the course of my life, which gave me a new orientation, a new ideal. On 7th and 8th August 1942, I attended the famous session of the All India Congress Committee in Gwalior in Bombay. On 8th August 1942, I heard the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. There was no one who understood more deeply the mute and dumb agony of the people of this country. He was the one person who had identified himself with the misery and suffering of the people. In him was accumulated the entire spiritual energy of the entire race. And he was the one person who understood the value realities of Indian life. I heard him on that day. I can still see him sitting in the distance on the platform, in his loincloth, resplendent with luster, which comes only from piety and penance, service and sacrifice. He spoke on that day, and let me tell you, he was a master of the English language. The language which he used was biblical, short, direct sentences that penetrated the very depths of the hearts of those who listened to him. And on that day, he excelled himself. Sentences after sentences, dressed in the finest English prose, came out of his lips. And one sentence he said on that day, which I will remember, which I can never forget, which is inscribed in my heart, which I want you to carry always within your own minds and hearts. He said, stare at the world, though the world is bloodshot eyes, go ahead for fear of God within. What I heard on that day made a tremendous impact on my mind. I never felt so moved, so touched as on that day when I heard Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. Today, of course, we piously chant his name. We have forgotten the message which he has given to us. We remember him on 2nd October and 30th January. But no one now cares for his message. The message of love and compassion and the message of strength and vigor both. His ahimsa, his non-violence was not a passive thing. It was a strong and a vigorous fight. But he made a tremendous impact on me as he made on millions of his countrymen. I was just one of those millions. And on that day I decided that I must give up my studies and join the freedom struggle. 9th August 42 saw me in the thick of the movement. Many of you come from the rural area. You know what poverty there is, what illiteracy, ignorance, exploitation, oppression. We have got to, after all, raise the conditions of these large masses of persons in order that democracy can become a living democracy. That should be the ideal before us. That ideal should inspire us. I am not for a moment suggesting that you should not carry on your own profession, vocation, business, activity which brings you money, because after all everyone has to live. But whilst you carry on your activities, always remember that Mother India is hearkening to us, is calling us. Others look upon other countries, they look upon the country as an inner thing. Mountains and rivers and farms. But for us, our country, India is our mother. We have always looked upon her as a mother. We have worshipped her. She is old, but she is not aged. She has passed through various vicissitudes of glory at the same time of ignominy. But the cycle has been going on. And but throughout these years, we have preserved two great virtues before us, about which I am going to speak to you. The two virtues of Tyaga and Seva. Why is it that India today lives, Indian culture lives, though more than 5,000 years have elapsed? One of the Upanishads says, na dhyanena, na prajaya, tyaga tatvam, not by meditation, not by prosperity, but by tyaga alone, we can attain immortality. So also the first verse of Ishavasya Upanishad says the same thing. Those amongst you who know Sanskrit, you will know. All the Upanishads ultimately lead to the same topic, the same eternal cosmic consciousness inhibiting every living creature. But I will not weary you with that, that aspect of our Indian philosophy. But Tyaga has always been emphasized. That Tyaga means renunciation. It doesn't mean that you should give up the world, go and live in a cave, or that is the common misconception of the Western scholars about our Indian culture. Our culture, Tyaga, renunciation means you go to the temple, but there you see the image of God. I would rather worship the living image of God as a human being rather than an idol which is lying in the temple. After all, that is what the great Vivekananda also said, that after all my austerity I have come to realize this is the only truth. That there is God in every jiva, there is no God outside of that. Therefore, service of God is service of God. That's what it is. And that is what Mahatma Gandhi, he kindled in us these two great virtues of Tyaga and Seva. Become a torch-bearer to humanity, emanation of your educational activities. Some of you may be doing postgraduate, some of you will be going out